All right.
Hi, Jake.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
everyone, Ken and I were just doing some troubleshooting to get everything good to go. But yeah, I'm not going to waste a single minute with this opportunity. And for my songs of the Great Lakes shipwrecks followers, unless you already know Ken, I don't think Ken needs an introduction. But if you're new to the channel, Ken, could you please tell us who you are and maybe a little bit like how many years you've been shipwreck hunting, and we'll move on from there. So yeah.
So I've been, I grew up in the generation of watching Jacques Cousteau and Lloyd Bridges sea hunt. But I've been diving for, see, 67. I was certified or started diving. So it'll be 60 years in 27. So probably something like 58 years. I ran scuba charters at Isle Royal for 40 years, starting in 75. And and then when I retired in 2016, 2015 was last season. 2016, I retired. I decided I wanted to see the rest of the Great Lakes, and because chartering kind of ends up you end up being stuck in one area, which if you being stuck at Isle Royal is a pretty good place to
I was
be
gonna say
stuck.
it's pretty gorgeous there.
But, it's I always said, there's only a few ways you can spend 30 days in paradise every year, and that's you're either rich or you work your butt off and and do something like charters and that, and which is what I did. Um, but yeah, I was a computer engineer in a mainframe company, Unisys or Univac, for 40 some years or 40 some, yeah, 40 some years. And then, then moved to Micron. And anyways,
You thought you
I,
for a moment you sounded a bit like Rick there, just saying how it turns into a into a bad habit or whatever, or if you're super rich, being able to do it as long as you have.
uh,
You guys
otherwise you
sound
have,
similar.
yeah, right. Well, and then, yeah, and then I'm one of the founding members of GLSPS, Great Lakes Shipwreck Preservation Society. And now I'm working on our newest project, 3D shipwrecks, which I assume we'll talk about later. So
Yes, yes, we will definitely get into that because that is an incredible thing you got going there. Well, um so you've been doing this for quite a while. I remember when we met in Holland, the Jane Miller, is that correct? Because
yeah,
I'm going to ask about some notable wrecks that you've definitely discovered. The Jane Miller was one of them, correct?
it's one of them. Yeah. Yeah. In the time, so, shipwreck hunting, at least for me, has always been a team sport. So, um, and, mm, you know, I've worked with Jerry Eliason and Craig Smith for, oh, I think it's close to 30 years. So I kind of look at it as our team. And, Jerry had found some stuff before we teamed up, and I had found some stuff before we teamed up, and then together and apart, we've found 30 shipwrecks in the whatever, well, in the 50 years or whatever I've been running charters,
Yeah.
um, and that. So some of the notable ones, the Kamloops, the
Marquette and
uh,
Bessemer, right? Number two?
no, no, the Pere Marquette
Here, Marquette.
18.
That's right. Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, the AC Adams, TH Camp, Benjamin Noble, Moonlight, Theano, Marquette,
Wow.
uh, and then more lately uh, the Steinbrenner. Um, let me just
That's a big boy too, the Steinbrenner. That's
yeah, that and Dolphin is in the Straits, and then in Canada it was the Jane Miller, the J.H. Jones, and the Manitou. Um, so yeah, it's it's been fun.
well, I have to ask, what do you think your chances are of finding the Inkerman and Cerisolis, the two French minesweepers? What do you think your chances are on that?
Well, I haven't, I really haven't looked for them. This is one of the few that I haven't looked for. Um, well, maybe we did a kind of a not really very serious look. Um, the whitefish group, Great Lakes Shipwreck Historical Society. They've got such a high tech, powerful sonar, and when we look at what we're going to search for, we look at you know the likely search area and how probable it is, that you're going to find it, and those are those are very large search areas, and so I it wa like say that the whitefish has been searching for them, and they've got, they cover 100 square miles in a day, and we just search with a Garmin
Right.
sonar, and so we maybe cover 4 or 5 square miles in a day. So it's like,
Well, and then
you
people
know,
don't realize unless they've seen Superior up at Whitefish or like Michigan, I mean any of them, these are huge bodies of water. These aren't, little
yeah.
ponds.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's a lot of area to cover, and yeah, it's Jerry's more rigid on that stuff. If it's 100 square mile search area, then he starts to back off a little bit. I'm a little um, less rigid on that. If I want to hunt for one, I hunt for. Hell, I've been hunting for the LaSalle's the Griffin too, and that's a that's that's a needle in a haystack, and only
More
I,
like hay in a haystack trying to
yeah,
find that.
right. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with hunting for lost causes,
Yeah, no,
so
I mean, you never know. You never know. It's
I don't. Well, it's kind of it's always a long shot, but you know when Jerry and I talked about that, he he said, well, it's this many square miles, and it costs us this amount of money per square mile, and do you want to spend $10,000 on this? And I was like, um, well, what else are we going to do?
Well, not to
you want to
mention your story of wrapping the cord around the propeller, that you guys had done. It's expensive.
done that too.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's equipment. That's one of the reasons why we search and explore deep wrecks with drop cameras, and that it's something we can afford,
Right.
and we build or put together all of our equipment, and we always have, and the thought of spending $50,000 or 100,000, whatever they fancy sonars run now, or groves, it's just not in our budget. So
Unless somebody gives you a wealthy donation, like, yeah.
yeah, and that usually, whenever you get people give you money, it's usually comes with strings. So, and same with grants and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So um yeah, and I've kind of come to that conclusion over time. It's people ask, well, how do you fund this, out of your own pocket? And it's like, we we go at a pace that we can afford, and um yeah, it's every time, we've gotten money, or for doing stuff, it always comes with constraints on schedules, and that, so which which hinders success, frankly. And like our 3D shipwreck stuff, and other shipwreck grants that we've gotten. It's just hard to, and then you're stuck with a lot of paperwork too. So
Right.
so yeah, for me, it's like, well, we just proceed at a rate that we can afford to do, um, and we live by our wits, and so we design our own equipment, or build it, or put it together,
Yeah.
and that's all part of the fun. So
Well, then, so would you say what got you into this would be the excitement of like what got you into this? Would you say part of it is the excitement of, ooh, what could we, achieve, or just even being out there,
It's kind of all of the above. It's solving a mystery that that's been around for 100 years or whatever. I got excited about shipwrecks. Dwight Boyer's book Ghost Ships of the Great Lakes. I read that back, when I was just out of college, and Dwight Boyer was he was a reporter for Cleveland Plain Dealer, and I went to school in Cleveland, um, so it was kind of a he was kind of a hometown boy to me, and I really enjoyed his books, and they got me excited about hunting for shipwrecks, and then you find one, the Kamloops was the first real one that we found, and that was just such a high. I mean, just such uh, a an exciting thing. And
Well, now
the
that you've brought that up, I have to ask because I don't know, that is next to the Fitzgerald, but the Kamloops, just knowing you, I'm sure you know the whole story behind her and everything. It is, it's one of my absolute favorite. I have such a passion for her. Will I ever see her with my own eyes? Probably not. And so talking to you is like the closest I can get to one of my all-time favorite wrecks ever. And um, yeah, I gotta ask you, what was that like? My gosh, Ken, what like?
yeah, it was amazing. It was and yeah, and it's like I say, it was the first real shipwreck we found, and so it was yeah, it was amazing. It was there were five of us in the group, and we I ran charters, so I knew people, around Isle Royal, and I knew Roy Oberg, who ran the Voyager around Isle Royal, and we had heard a rumor that somebody had found the Kamloops, and so you know, we had a weekend off, and so I thought, well, heck, let's go look for it. So I had bought this. They call them sector scan sonars now. It was at the time that it was a Westmar, and it was frankly a piece of crap. Um, but I'd spent a lot of money on it, for me, like $2,000, and this is in 1975 dollars. So which we got mainly to go out and look for wrecks out on Superior Shoals, which we did in 75. Um, and back then, you had the recording depth finders, graphs, paper graphs, and this thing, which, like I say, it probably wouldn't have been too bad at shallow depths, but on Lake Superior, it was.
Mhm.
Other than it could reach down 1,000 foot, which virtually none of the sonars back then, or the depth finders back
Yeah.
then, could do. But we did it to go out. We'd had our expedition to Superior Shoals and got on the shoals, didn't find any shipwrecks. But and then so we went out to search for this thing, um, off of 12 o'clock point, which was what the rumor was. And we got out there, and we're started our pass up Todd Harbor, and um, geez, the bottom was going up and down, and there was no way we were going to be able to discern a shipwreck out of that. And I had heard a rumor that Roy Oberg had thought he saw it on his recording depth finder, and we were kicking ourselves. We broke the first rule of shipwreck hunting. We didn't do our research. We should have talked to Roy. And I looked over to the right, and who was cruising right by us at the time but Roy
Oh man,
out the Voyager. And it was like, oh, hey, there's Roy.
what
So
timing?
yeah, exactly. And so I called him up on the radio, and I said, hey, Roy, uh, we heard you got a sounding of what you thought might be the Kamloops, and I was wondering if you'd be willing to share that with us. And Roy said, uh, sure, hey boy, follow me, hey boy. And so Roy ran a lot faster than I did. My boat, and this is still the boat I have, is a 1947 Owens Cruiser, an old
Right.
wooden
Out on Lake
boat,
Superior.
on all of the Great Lakes. And anyway, so yeah, I poured the coals to the hay boy and chased him, and when he got up to what now is called Kamloops Point,
Yeah.
he said, "Right here, hay boy, from the point to the beach." So we said, "Thanks, Roy," and he took off. He kept going, and so we started sounding up and down that wall. And if and I don't know if you've done any side scanning, but side scan sonar is very difficult on a rocky bottom and like a wall. It's kind of like, a lot of times it's like those one of uh, those those tests where you try to make sense of
Mhm.
patterns.
Oh,
Sure,
yeah, yeah.
sure. Yeah, those. Yeah. Anyways, so we started going back and forth. And Engelbrecht had a paper graph, a good one, and that we put on the back of the boat. And we went back and forth, and we saw some things that maybe, nothing that just stood out. And while we were doing that, this fishing boat, it was like a 24-foot fishing boat, um, called us up and said, "Hey, boy, we heard you talking to Roy, and we fished this point for 20 years, and there's no shipwreck here." And and I said, "Oh, really? Well, we saw a couple things that we thought might be a shipwreck." And it's, "Oh, well, keep us informed." And we thought, "Wow, could that be someone who found it and and sitting
Ooh,
here?"
that's kinda yeah, that's kinda reading into that there, huh?
Yeah, so yeah, it raised that mystery. And so back then, there was no tech diving. And so it when we did deep dives, it was just kind of, we used the extreme exposure tables and things like that. Anyways, I had never been over probably 150 foot at that time. But Randy, my crew and good friend, he was kind of excited to get into the deeper diving. And Engelbrecht dove with Jerry Buchanan, who was kind of on a cutting edge of tech diving. What we didn't call it tech diving back then, but
Right.
doing deep diving and even some mixed gas diving. So he wanted to get into deeper diving, so you know, they started on the beach side, and they went down. And and it is a wall. And so they got down to, I think, 180 foot, and they saw what they described as a ladder and a brass barrel. And so, and we made a plan. You start on this end and go down to that depth and go across. We'll start on this side, and we'll meet in the middle, in different dives.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was kind of exciting. So we started on our side, and we only went down to like 70 foot looking for wreckage. And but just at the end of the dive, I spotted it's a bale of four pipes, laying on the bottom,
Uh-huh.
and it had a tag, like a shipping tag on it. And so I broke the tag off and came up and said, "Oh." So, well, then Ken Verana, who used to be the North End Ranger, he was coming down watching us too, to see, what we were doing, which that kind of elevated the mystery there. And we thought, this is strange. The
Yeah.
park's kind of curious what we're doing here. So maybe the rumor was true.
Yeah,
So anyway,
like,
yeah,
coincidence there.
exactly. So he come down to see, and we were good friends. And so, yeah, well, we found some pipe, but nothing major. And then we cruised. I didn't have a compressor on board at the time, so we had to cruise, what is it, 25 miles at night through fog to go down to the south end to get our tanks refilled at there was an inland diver club that had an old fish tug that they used to dive, and they had a compressor.
Mhm.
So we dived next to them for the night, and they pumped their tanks, and then we headed back the next morning, we got back up, and this time it was our turn to start first. So we started where we left off, and this time we went down deeper, and we saw, oh, it was like somebody had dumped a tractor trailer load of pipe down
I was gonna
that
say probably a big debris field, right?
yeah. And so we started down and we followed it, and our plan was to go down and turn right and go back towards the beach, which we quickly ran out of wreckage. And I've always kicked myself for not turning back around and following the debris trail. But we said, no, and, we said we are going this way. Like, we got to do this pattern. So we did, and then came back up. And Ken and Randy were going to start where they left off at the beach, and come back towards the points end, and said, "But there is like a tractor trailer load of pipe down this point. I think you're better off following it down." So they did, and they got down. We had anchored behind the point. There's a little bay there, and then swim over and then down the wall. And so we were watching their bubbles, and all of a sudden there was like a bunch of bubbles come up, and I thought, uh-oh, maybe somebody had a free flow.
Uh-huh.
And then there was another one, and it was like, uh-oh, this doesn't look good. Well, Randy's brother was one of the other divers, the other three of us that were on the boat, and I didn't want to get too, you know, too nervous about it,
Right.
or
Yeah.
so I just said, well, hey, let's pull the anchor up and we'll go around the point in case they need help. We get around the other side of the point. So he had to go down around this shoal, which I don't know, is probably another quarter mile, half mile down, and then back again. And by the time we got back, there was no bubbles. We
None.
didn't see any, none. And oh, what a sinking feeling. I mean, I had a set of twin 72s, and they were half empty. There wasn't much we could do, and about that time, Ken Verana came back, and said, how's it going? And I said, well, we're looking for bubbles. And then we spotted the bubbles. They were just right up next to the rocks,
Okay.
and the wall at that point is more vertical, so they were doing their decompression on the wall. And so I said, well, have you found anything? And I said, well, there's it looks like a tractor trailer load of pipe down this point. But the guys should be up in a minute or two. So if you want to wait, we'll see if they found anything. So, well, and back then people did take stuff off wrecks. We didn't much, but I wasn't sure just what they were, maybe they found something really cool or something. So anyways, as I the first, one of them popped their head up, I put my boat between the park ranger and them,
Yeah.
and I said, Verana's here. Did you find anything? And they said, no, just a lot of pipe. Oh, okay. So I turned around and yelled to Verana. I said, just a lot of pipe. Okay, Ken, thanks. And he took off, and so then they swam out and got on the back of the boat. We're talking, and Jesus, there was a burst of bubbles. We thought we were nervous you had a free flow and we lost you or something. And
Right. Yeah.
Engelbrecht puts his hands on the transom and he goes, "We fucking found it." He says, "What? We haven't found it." He says, "And you can't believe there's a big wheel." And
Oh
and
my goodness.
so they had, as they went along I guess I got my dog excited.
Oh yeah, that's
As
fine.
they went along the ledge or the bottom of the wall, they were finding some wreckage, and then Engelbrecht looked up and he saw the silhouette,
Oh wow.
and then closer there was a post or a pole, sticking out, and it was the flagpole,
Uh-huh.
and the two of them blasted out of their gourds went up and holding on to the flagpole, looking at this beautiful wheel, um, and it was, and that was the burst of air. They were so excited that they'd found it, and so anyways, so then we wanted to come back
Oh,
and
yeah,
check
absolutely.
out. Well, and so that what happened was is uh, if you because the cabins don't stick up very high,
Uh-huh.
uh, when you're up above, like where the flagpole was, you look down, it doesn't look like there's stern cabins.
Uh-huh.
And and plus, you've got a pretty good head of narcosis on at that point. And so anyways, they weren't sure it was the Kamloops. Could have been the Lee field too.
Oh, yeah.
We looked at, and that's a midship or a mid cabin ship. So it wouldn't have had cabins on the stern. So anyways, so we all worked at the same place. So break times, we'd all run down to the cafeteria, have coffee, and talk, plan our next trip. So it was 2 weeks before we could get back,
Yeah.
um, and of course, we had to order, back then the way you did the deep diving was with Sherwood manifolds, that had valves on each one. They didn't have an isolator valve like they do now. It was just, you could turn off either tank
Okay.
if you had a free flow.
Mm.
Um, and so so I had to order a manifold, and there wasn't FedEx or anything back then.
No
I had
Amazon
to
Prime that real quick? Next day
no,
delivery?
yeah, it came through UPS. So anyways, they arrived and put together, and we dive with twin 80s. Um, so we went out in 2 weeks, and we got I think it was Ken's neighbor to go with us. Then it was just the three of us,
Uh-huh.
uh, and so we'd anchor behind the point, and we went down, and so this was my deepest dive I had ever done. And so we got down, and of course you just totally blasted, and I had a depth gauge that uh I had dropped it, and so it didn't zero out.
Oh,
So it had like 7 foot, and it wouldn't zero, it'd go to 7 foot. So I just always added seven onto whatever it read. And
okay, yeah.
got down to I got down on the wreck, and I looked at my gauge, and okay, it's I got to add seven. Uh, oh, maybe I just better move up. Come up a little bit. And then we had the old film Nikonis cameras,
Yeah,
and so we wanted to verify, that it was the Kamloops. And once we got down to look, at it at the right angle, we could see the stern
yeah.
cabins. But anyway, so I went back, and you could still read the name at that time. But when I looked at it, I was seeing double. I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
I was like, oh man, and I couldn't read it because I was too narked out. So I just turned my camera and took a couple pictures of it. And I didn't have very wide angle lens, so I got, one picture I got LOOP or OPS, and on the other one I got MLO. So it's
Okay.
like, so we were pretty sure it was Kamloops, but when I got back and looked at the pictures, it actually was double.
Was it? Okay.
They had painted it, and they put the name on it, and then they painted over it with the black, and then repainted the name. And when they did it, it was shifted off a little bit, and as
Ah,
off, there was two names on there. So it was so that, and then we came up, and we were all excited and everything. Well, Ken Verana, the park ranger, came down, and it was at that point that we told him we had found it. Well, the whole, he called Jack Moorhead, who was the superintendent at that time and a diver,
yeah.
and the island was buzzing because it was back and forth. Well, Ken, can you come down to the south end, or can you come into Rock Harbor? Jack Moorhead wants to meet with you, and it was, so, well, this is kind of a long way out of our way. We won't get back, till, tomorrow if we do that. Okay. All right. Jack's going to fly down to the south end to meet you. Can you stop in at Wendigo? Yeah, we could do that. So it's like, so all of my friends who knew we were hunting for this thing with all of Jack Moorhead's going to fly down the south end to meet with the Hey Boy crew. Um, they knew something was up.
Oh yeah.
And we had talked about it. We already knew what we wanted to do with it, because we had spent 2 weeks talking about what we wanted to do. So when we walked in the office, Jack's sitting at the desk and he goes, "So you found the Kamloops?" And I said, "Yeah. Is did somebody else find it too?" And he kind of gave me this odd look and he goes, uh, "No, why? What do you mean?" "Oh, oh, well, we'd heard a rumor that somebody had found it." And he says, "Oh, well, not to my knowledge." So, anyway, so then he says, "Well, so what do you want to do with it?" And so we had already talked it over. And we said, "Well, we don't want anything, we will keep the location secret till the boats are out of the water, and that'll give you all winter to figure out how to protect it. And then, we'll let the location out to our friends uh, over the winter, and then next year we can all dive it." And they were happy with that. And so that was the plan. And then another friend, Ken Hafner, who was a he was kind of like the best underwater photographer in that area. He he ran charters too. There
Uh-huh.
were like three up there, three boats that ran charters. My boat, Hafner, and then John Nelson at the time. And so, anyways, Ken came over bearing gifts. "Hey, Ken, I heard you need a new fender. Here, I just happen to have one here."
Oh
So,
wow.
you found something up there? So, anyways, and I told him, I said, "Well, our goal is to, document it, and you're the best photographer around. Talk to Jack Moorhead, and if he's comfortable with you going out and doing it, we'll take you out." So anyway, so we ended up the three charter captains, um, uh, Ken Hafner, John Nelson, and then Randy and I went back out after, towards the end of the season. I think it was in September, and and then we did a dive on it, and we had only just seen the very stern of the ship. And
Okay.
when we did the soundings originally, um, it looked like there was another shallow thing nearby, and we thought, well, maybe it's broken, and maybe the bow is up in shallow water, and then we wouldn't have to do all this deep diving. So we put the first line on it. Uh, Hafner, no, that's right. Randy and I connected. Hafner spooled it out on the surface, and we connected it to the handrail, which I think is still pretty much where they fasten it now. And then I had gotten a new depth gauge after that,
Oh yeah.
because I the second dive after, I couldn't read it. I decided to put a piece of tape on it, so I said, okay, I'm going to put a piece of tape, and that's my max depth. And I got
Jerry
down,
rig
and
it a bit there, huh?
yeah, I got down to the next dive, and it was like, oh shit, which side of the tape was the needle supposed to be on?
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, oh shit. So anyways, so I got a new computer, or not a computer, new depth gauge that was supposed to be very accurate.
Uh-huh.
And Randy and I swam down to the running light, forward running light, um, and which at the time, I read 230 on my gauge. I was like, when I got down there, I said, "Lord, thank you for letting my head be this clear. I know I'm too deep."
Yeah.
so 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 we headed back. Now later with the computer, it was more like 240, but anyways, it was on air. So it was we always, you were kind of running on instinct,
Yeah.
and so and we just take pictures and um, so we know what we saw afterwards. And but yeah, it was, you know, it was really exciting when the weekend we found it. After uh, I think it was after there's that second weekend. I think it was after we dove it.
Yeah.
We got back to Grand Portage too late. The North Shore back in those days, there were no gas stations open after like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So you had to, and there was only one place to get gas. It was Grand Marais. If you didn't fill up, you know, if you didn't get home or get out of there before 10 o'clock, you couldn't make it to Duluth.
Right.
And so so we got in late enough that we couldn't make it back to Duluth. We were too late to get back to get fill our gas tanks. So we ended up sleeping in the parking lot at the police station in Grand Marais till 5 o'clock in the morning when they opened up. So I think that was the weekend we found it. Yeah, because Engelbrecht was there. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Anyways, but yeah, that's the story of the Kamloops. And yeah, and as far as excitement goes, I don't know that there's any that
Oh,
we found since that have matched that
oh,
excitement
I'm jealous.